Alright, today I'm going to be showing you how to replace a front shock absorber on a 2003 GMC K2500. The procedure is almost the same, different bolts and such for most trucks that are four-wheel drive, but if it's two-wheel drive, there's a possibility you might have a coil spring and shock setup, so that procedure would be different. But this procedure will be the same with a couple changes with anything with a torsion bar suspension setup. And if you're unfamiliar with the torsion bar suspension, that's this big bar right here. What it does is it keeps twisting force on your lower control arm, and actually that's your suspension. It acts as a spring. So for this job, you're gonna need a pair of vice grips or a wrench, but since these shocks are no longer useful to me, I'm just going to use a pair of vice grips. That's going to go right around this nut here and position it so when you turn, it's hitting this piece of steel here, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm also going to be using a 3/4 wrench on that top nut there. You're going to need something stationary brace with a 21mm on it, and that's going to go right down under here. If I can get it down there. There it goes. So that'll go in there on the inside, the bolt side, I guess we'll call it. Then what we're going to do here, so we're going to use another 21mm socket, and that's going to go on the nut side there on the outside of that. Now, the torsion bar is providing, it's under pressure. The shock is the only thing keeping it from coming down. You know, as in, like if you was to separate the upper or lower ball, yeah, it's gonna shoot down. The same's true when it comes to the shock absorber. That's keeping it at the bottom end of travel. So when you unbolt this, it will shoot down unless you take the pressure off of it. And that's what we're going to do here with a jack stand and a brick. And then I'm just going to lower the lift and just put some tension on it. Just put, you know, right under here. Try not to get on the rotor or the shield there, but if you can hit right on the bottom of this control arm, really you can hit anywhere as long as it's safe and it works correctly. And you're just going to want to take just a little bit of tension off of it, put a little bit of pressure on here, just so when you do take tension off the shock absorber, there's going to be no surprises or anything. And also, you know, you can minimize yourself getting hurt because that's coming down whether you're in the way or not. It's, you know, it's meant to hold up an 8,000–9,000 pound truck. You know, a couple 100-pound human ain't gonna be nothing. So stay safe and do it the right way. So I'm gonna put some tension on this and then I'll be back. Took the tension off the. It's, you know, you shouldn't be able to move it. If you can move it, it hasn't taken the proper amount of tension off yet. But if you can't move it, seems pretty solid. We're gonna go ahead and we're going to remove. You can start either way. I'm gonna remove some of the tension off with the top. I'm just gonna run that nut up and take it off, and then we'll move on to the bottom. So I'll be back right after that. All right, it's off. So what you're gonna expect to encounter, you're gonna have a nut. Just like in a stabilizer bar, you're going to have like a retainer there for the biscuit. And then you're going to have a biscuit that's hard to get off. And then you're going to have the shock itself. But can't get that out yet. But so you're going to have nut, the retainer, the biscuit, and then it's going to go through the shock mount. Then you're going to have a biscuit, a retainer, and then the shock. So I'll show that a little bit more when I get it out, or I'll probably just show it with the new one. So now we're going to move down and do these lowers here. Basically, it's the same procedure. I'm going to use an impact wrench on the outside and get it out quick. Use a hammer if you encounter that the bolt's difficult to get out. Use a hammer and a punch. Come right out. Now on most shock kits or shocks, you're going to have to reuse that bolt. So just be prepared for that. Don't gaw it up or anything like that. So I'm going to get that out and I'll be right back at you. Alright, the shock is loose, bottom bolt's still in, so I'm going to show you how to get it out. You're going to pull that bolt out there. You're going to take it, do some turning, pull it out of the top, and out the bottom there. And this is the shock. Alright. I'm going to go get the new one. I'm going to show you how all this goes on top there and be right back at you. This is how these go on here in case you don't know. So before you put it in, you'll install the lower. And you're going to install that biscuit. You're going to slide it up through there. Install the upper, the retainer, and then the nut. Now make sure these are pointed down, you know, and up respectively, because it's going to sandwich it. It's kind of like a stabilizer bar link. If you look how they got one on each side and then the retainers on it. That's what it reminds me of. Same situation there. So I'm going to install this in there. Then I'm going to put the pack this how it's supposed to go. And then I'll tighten everything down. So, right up through there. Now also the flat part goes to the bottom, and with the rounded part of the nut on top there. Okay. Now the bottom, you're gonna stretch the bottom out here. Some of them like that right there usually have the logo facing out. So the bottom will go in just like that. Now it goes in the same way that it came out. The nut goes from the inside out on this particular model. And you're gonna put that back together. Make sure you always start the threads before you torque it down. Avoid cross threading. I mean, it's really that simple. So I'm going to torque these down. The bottom is 59 foot-pounds. So 59 foot-pounds on this nut down here. And then the top, we're looking at 15 foot-pounds. Seems kind of small, but you'd be surprised. It actually sandwiches it down pretty nicely. You'll probably have about 3/4 of an inch, maybe even an inch of threads on the top. So yeah, 15 foot-pounds, you know you're doing it right. Alright, I'm going to show you torquing down this top one here. The wrench, since you don't want to destroy your new shock, it'll be whatever the nut calls for. In this case, it's a 3/4, same as the top. We're going to torque this top one here, and then we're going to move on down to the bottom and torque that. So I just pulled the splash shield up. There ain't no reason to remove it for this. I mean, you can if you're real particular, but I mean, it ain't gonna hurt it. It's seen a lot worse on the roads. Now I used the wrench, and I put it just like the other way when we were loosening, right up against here. It's like having an extra set of hands sometimes. So we're gonna torque this down, and then when it gets close to it, I'm gonna lift this splash shield up so it's not affecting my torque. Yep. All right, that's the top. torque down there. There's that Plinko game right there. Alright, for the bottom, I already got the wrench on there, or the backing one on there, so you're just going to run it. This one's 59, I believe. Okay, there you go, and that's how you replace the front shock absorbers on an 03 GMC Sierra K2500 heavy duty. Like the video if you liked it. If you think of anything I need to improve on, comment it. I'll see what I can do. If you like these videos that I'm doing, feel free to subscribe. There'll be a lot more coming. I'm also going to be doing some fabrication videos and some how-tos on basic stuff, explanations of stuff like torque wrench, starter, anything else, other trinkets, maybe showing how to solder, or, you know, countless things. So, like and subscribe. Thank you.